Today's date is August the 9th, 1996, and we are conducting an interview with Ervin Greenwood.
You were telling me about being in the salt mines and the war sort of turning around. What happened after that?
Yeah, well, that's when I was in village kind of working the salt mines, and one day I came to Plaszów, and suddenly they arrived thousands and thousands of people, even people from Budzin, where I was with us 5,000 people, a few months before, and my brother was between them, and Mrs. Neumann, the woman even, and all the couples and all the commandants, everybody was no more commandants. You see what I mean? All the prestigious and privileged people who used to be there in charge, it's all become normal people like us, because they didn't mind any difference. You know what I mean? They all put you in one heap. And we've been there for a week and for 2 weeks, and slowly they transported trains from Plaszów, because close to Krakow. Krakow is from Krakow you go through East Germany, right through to West Germany. You know what I mean? Krakow is the line. And, it's probably 10,000 people there, at least, what I think. That's mean that you can't move them in a day, like one train and one train and one train. Anyhow, we've been told that we are protected so far, but we're waiting for, because we're going to be like war essentials, I mean from Budzin and from because we work for factories and things like that. Now, few trains went, I don't know where they went to Germany, yeah? When after came our time, I went together already with my brother, because they didn't select, because it was 10,000 on a heap. That's when everybody side with anybody, you know what I mean? And we went in a wagon, in what do you call a wagon? I call it wagon, yeah. And with the, don't tell me that's her. Anyhow, we went with the wagon, and they put the guard in the middle. Not bad, was not many. I mean, it was not, you can see we are protected, because they didn't put 100 in it. They put only 30 or 40. And with the guard, with the gun, and we went through 2 weeks traveling. And the 2 weeks, I remember, they didn't give us any food. First week they gave us, the second week we didn't know what happened. It was pinched in a station where it was no organization. And we've been very hungry, and I remember in Leipzig, because I read Leipzig through the thing, and he went to open the thing, and he couldn't understand why I don't give him food, because the guard got worried himself. You see, the guard got worried that, what do you mean they don't get him any food? Anyhow, what I did, I said to the guard, he started to have his sandwich. I said, how can you eat sandwich if we're so hungry? We're going to grab you. I spoke German, and I said, we're going to grab you. He said, I got a gun. You look. He said, but how many are you going to kill? 5, 6, somebody going to grab you. He realized it, and I said, what do you want? I can't do nothing. They didn't give you, I can't do. I told him, he started. And I said to him, you look, next railway, next station where I looked, I saw sugar beets. See, in Europe is sugar made from sugar beets, not from cane. And I said, all you have to do is get us a few bags sugar beets. He said, hell, I'm not allowed to. But what do you want me to do, to starve us? You're going to eat it? And he said, we're standing here already 3 hours doing nothing. I said, yes, get us sugar beets. He opened the tank, and he brought sugar beets. And we ate sugar beet. Beautiful, you know what I mean? Sugar beet. And water he brought us, he went with the railway there, over there. And we've been just standing 3-4 hours. That means our stomach in our tank was full. Because I said, bring us more sugar beet, just in case they don't give us next to eat. He brought us sugar beet, yeah? Well, all he had to do is jump up and take it because it's open, yeah? Anyhow, we had sugar beet, and we've been eating the sugar beet till Dachau. We went to Dachau. It's still a long way from there, from Leipzig. And Dachau, that's where I was so surprised. Dachau is about that far as from here, Burwood, from Munich. Well, it's a station, and they opened the wagons of trains, and people falling out, dead, or half dead, because they didn't get to eat. We had to eat because we had the sugar beet, but they fell out, a lot of them dead, because they starved to death after a week, 2 weeks not eating. I couldn't get over it first, because I saw civil people walking, go to train, and I couldn't understand. Then I said, my God, they said the civil doesn't know, they don't know nothing, and here is an open station, you know, Dachau station, and they fell out, and people over there, 100 meters from us, I see people walking to the trains, you know, and a lot of people, that time the SS panicked, and they brought some soup in a hurry to recover, and I remember I had a fight with my brother then, because he ran to get the soup, and I chucked it out of his hand, because I understood that if you're hungry 2 weeks or a week, and suddenly you eat something good, that your stomach won't take it. And this was really happening. A lot of people died, what do you call it, they went skręt kiszek, called in Polish. You know, you turns everything out because suddenly empty stomach for 2 weeks, and you eat food and hot, and you die because, you know, a lot of them did, hundreds of them. And, you know, and I said no, and matter of fact, they brought soup for me. I said no, hot water. I was a fellow with hot water. All my concentration camp thing, I was drinking hot water. And I can tell you that the hot water saved me from sicknesses, saved me from, you know what I mean? And they all laughed. Who drink pure hot water? Hot water. As I said, hot water. And matter of fact, in Dachau afterwards, we've been in Dachau 4 weeks, 3 weeks, and Dachau had such tall trees, what you call as those German, and I used to make tea. The leaves what fell on autumn, you know, and I took them, put them in hot water, and I pretended I have tea. You know, the color of it was tea. And I tea, but the food was much better in Dachau, because Red Cross was there, and, you know, and over there they cleaned us the things, they gave us new uniform first, and after they, that's all. But from Dachau, they sent us to Flossenburg. And Flossenburg, that's where took everything out again. That's what they put us on in Dachau. They took everything off, they gave us a bath, and gave us a cement bag. Just cement bag, you know, and cut out that cement bag here that you could put your arms in. And they're looking in our mouth and our bottom and everywhere. If we hide anything, gold, something, that's ridiculous. We already have 3-4 years what you can hide. But I don't know, they had either you hide something and thinking, well, 2 dice was 5 below zero, 7 below zero, and it was cold and miserable. And actually over there was that Demajuk, which one was freed 2-3 years ago. They said he wasn't the Demajuk, he was something else. But he was not that even that terrible. He was another one, he is Demajuk. And he was there too with his friend.
In Flossenburg.
In Flossenburg. That's the last time they saw him in Flossenburg. Only in America after the war. Because it's no, after the war, like to die, and then you can't get any guilty thing. Because it's normal, here is normal laws. Who can imagine? Only time when really they killed people in Russia, I mean the Russian, the SS men or the murderers, that was the only solution. Because to die, who is guilty, there are thousands of them around who kill thousands of people. They don't worry about it because no jury can convince them, because the jury is different. You have to have witnesses, you have to have that, you have to have that. And it's always some way out. Let's put it that way. You see, and that's what actually happened. In Flossenburg, after they sent us to Leitmeritz. Leitmeritz, we've been working on the V2, not actually the V2, but the V2 which the rockets went to London, but those the equipment for the
rocket.
For the rocket, you know what I mean? Rocket was different places, and that was bombed all the time. That's mean we didn't last it long because it's bombed. So many bombs, they came, especially in the English bombed us in. Once I remember they bombed us, and cloud was so heavy that we didn't see them, and you just bury your head in the sand because you feel like they're over it. That's when I ate my first tomato in my life. When the bombs disappeared, I see I am in a tomato patch. And I never ate tomato in my life before. I didn't like tomatoes. And I was a green tomato there, few green, not ripe, and I ate them. Since then I eat tomatoes. You know what I mean? It's funny, but they begged me to eat tomatoes at home, I wouldn't. But here, green tomatoes, and I ate myself with tomatoes. You see, in Leitmeritz, after they bombed it out, they sent us to Augsburg. Augsburg was Messerschmitt factory. And we didn't last long either because they bombed the Messerschmitt factory. And I was plain lucky they changed the shift, because one night when I changed the shift, 500 Jews too been killed, including the German, was been bombed out. And after they shifted us, we went back to Dachau. From there we went to Dachau, and over there another few weeks. And from Dachau they sent us to Natzweiler. And Natzweiler, concentration camp Natzweiler, but Leonberg was the factory for aeroplanes. That was about a few kilometers from Natzweiler, separate camp only serviced for the factory. The factory was in a hill, that's why they called Leonberg, and that means the bomb, which one fell, didn't harm, because it was on a hill. We just heard toot, 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 but it didn't harm nothing. And over there we've been working until March already, nearly end of the war. We heard already, I was working the cockpit. You know what I mean? I was checking the cockpit that's got no air coming through or something. And I was trusted by the German who was in charge of me. You see, I never had it too bad because he helped me with a bit of food. That's mean I never been that bad. Is only in March, when they approached already Strasbourg, France, and the borders of Germany, that they suddenly decided to send us off. But it came so sudden because Germans never believed, like, to die, we have to move tomorrow. They waited till last minute. They didn't want to give up. That's mean, we knew they were going to come here in 3 days and we have to move. And they said, no, we're going to fight. We're going to defend. You understand what I mean? That means they're always in a panic and decided last minute they had no trains to move us, and they wouldn't leave us behind. Because I suggested even to the German engineers, why don't you leave us behind? He said, we can't decide, the civil said. The SS is in charge. They do the orders and they do it.
So what did they do with you then?
And he said to me, he said, oh, he looked at me, he was sorry for me, that engineer, the German. So it was on the end, it was already March. And after we walked, and we walked about 100 kikes, about 80 kikes, 3 days, 3 or 4 days. Walk, have a rest, walk, a lot of them, you know. But we've been, that's what I say, we've been protected. We wasn't so hungry like the people like the last few months from Poland, because they had bigger problem in Poland because they left at the last minute in big distances. You know what I mean? And I was, after they loaded us in a train, some place, I don't know exactly, we came to a station and loaded us in a train and dropped us in Kaufering. But Kaufering was, like I told you, with the underground. I mean, you slept underground, only a roof on top of you. You had to bend 3 steps down, to get to the ground, and you sleep on the ground. Yeah? And that was Kaufering, and that's where we've been only not long, because it came so fast from March to April, May. The movement from, the war was that fast. They had to move us all the time, and they moved us actually that in Kaufering, when they started to move us on a train, my brother had a wound here, which one was full of pus and dangerous. You can see, even his heart you saw, his ribs you saw, yeah? And I knew he can't do the marching or something. And I decided it's, because they said, who can't move, we leave him behind. First they said, no, we kill him, but after I heard already they leaving behind, I didn't take my notice. I said, I take the chance. Even then I said, I take the chance. He can't move, I can move, but I tell him I can't move. They came into the barrack, and about 5, 6 people been there. She said, you can't be moved. They tried us move, and I pretended that I can't move. I collapsed, but I could move, and until they left. When they left, I was the only one actually which could move properly. My brother could move, walk, but he had a bad side. The rest of them just. In Kaufering we walked. I said, what we do? Nobody left behind, not even guards. Yeah, that's when first we went to the kitchen, tried to rob something to food, robbed here what they left behind. And afterwards we waited the day too. We said, what we decide to do? I said, but we miscalculated. 2 days later came new guards. We could have gone away, but I don't know where, but came a new guards. And they picked us up on a truck, and they took us to Mühlhaus.
What sort of guards were they?
SS guards. That's been already SS. In Germany was everything SS guards. Took us to Mühlhaus, and Mühlhaus was a camp that you die. You know what I mean? For weak ones. They let you there. They didn't even watch much. They just feed you a little bit. One soup a day, and they said, "Oh, well, you're gone." Every day died 25, 30. From typhus. They didn't look after you. And they said, "Well, all right." But I was a healthy one, and I organized myself. And I was. Tell you the truth, I was robbing the kitchen. Matter of fact, I cooked myself. Funny part, I think, I always believed in, I took from the SS rubbish bin, the potato peelings, carrot peelings, beetroot peelings, and I cooked it up, the peelings, and I was feeding my brother and myself peeling, and it's helped. And when I done it once, I said, I get away with that, because you had to go very close to the guard, because they've been inside. When outside was the bins. It's very risky, because if you move out, they just shoot you. Anyhow, I took the risk, and I was getting it for 3 or 4 days like that, and I improved my strength, and even in my brother, but a lot of them been dying, and suddenly from there already, they loaded us in a train, with 5,000 or 6,000 people, women already, not children I didn't see, and men, and they loaded us, and we went towards, they told us we're going to Munich first, and from Munich to Tyrol. That means they probably wanted us to get to Dachau, I can imagine. And because you have to go through Munich to go to Tyrol, to Austrian side. What's the name? I was on the train, and suddenly the American bombers started to bombard the train. Train was moving. And this was about open space. I remember there was a few trees, a forest here, and open space here, and they struck the locomotive. And they started to burn the locomotive, and the first wagon, where was a lot of clothing and things, was burning. That's when we went out. They couldn't move us. Now the planes came again, and again bombarded. Few of them got killed, but the third time they realized, because they must saw, because we left the train out. You know what I mean? We hold the stripes. That means they could see the stripes. Before we've been inside, they couldn't see the stripes. The third lot, when third time they came, they already just flew over. That means they noticed, because we all went out, you know what I mean? We went in, because a lot of them been injured and dead, and that was it. But the train was burning, and the guards started to panic. A lot of them robbed a few things from the train and disappeared, you know what I mean, like through the forest, through a station, because they've been German soldiers, German guards. They tried to already panic, they already, you know, they knew that's going to be on the end. We knew going to be an end, because we heard the guns all the time. And that's when I got dressed in a civil cloth, because I found a full wagon with clothes to my brother and to a few people. I said, let's go, we get out, we're not going to wait. I don't know what happened to the train later, because I heard they picked it up, they brought a new locomotive. 2 days later, they brought a new locomotive. But I left for approach, let's put it that way, approach the Americans. And I asked over there, farmer, I said to him, which side is American? And he said, that side and that side. Anyhow, we took a wrong turn and finished up the night in the forest. And the forest, I said, I'm probably right forest. In the morning, probably the Americans will be here. The shock of our life was suddenly we encircled with tanks, with German tanks, because took the wrong side. And I said to him in German, he said, who are you? I said, we just ran away from here. And then, and the soldiers, which wasn't SS, they've been quite sympathetic. He said, oh, it won't be long or something. They didn't mind nothing. They were ordinary soldiers. But the officer, he said, I have to interview you, take you, and give you over to SS. They are in charge of you. Yeah? Now I said, my God, we got out of it, and now we're out. And we had good clothing, because I pinched good stuff there, you know. And it took us to that village, but I can't remember exactly. It was close to Munich, to Landsberg. Close to Landsberg. And he said, and he watched us, and you know what I mean, and the officer put something and gave us something to eat. And the village has been already moving around and trying to, you know what I mean, to help us, to give food, something behind, you know, like that, protected. And I saw they already making a white flag, not one, but few of them, white flag, and direction you put on that side of village, I go on that side of village. And I said to the officer, he said, why don't you release us? What's the difference? No, orders are orders. The SS going to told me that's coming through here and thing. Anyhow, suddenly they got a order, move. And it took them 10 minutes. They just loaded everything up, put on the trucks, and move on. He said to the guard, you stay here until SS comes. The guard panicked too. He jumped on the last truck. He left us stranded. And we left us stranded. He left us stranded. And the villagers came up and said, oh, you're here, and there. Started to be nice to us, brought us food. I remember egg and milk and cheese, what I couldn't eat, because I ate, but, you know, was vomiting all the time, and because couldn't take that food. See, I could take a little soup or little hot thing, but anything you couldn't, you know what I mean? Not everybody, somebody was all right, but I couldn't. My brother could, you know, and I couldn't. And next day in the morning, the Americans came with the jeep. They been with the white flag. They brought the American to us. Oh, we saved them. We protest, full of nonsense.
Do you know when that was exactly?
24 of April, 1945. That's mean actually that was 24, but I remember I was liberated officially. I was deliberated, but still was in a front zone. That's mean I called it 25 next morning, 25 of April, because they put us they gave us food and they took us with us, because the war was still on, and they know that they brought us somewhere to Landsberg, I remember. And they dropped us off to that company. You understand what I mean? And that company was the third army of General Patton. I remember even the Company C.
So it was the US Army that liberated.
It was U.S. Army, Company C. And they looked after us, they gave us food. The Company C actually looked after us until the war was over, because they couldn't set up things in a hurry because the war was on. You see, Munich wasn't even taken. You see, that's when Landsberg was taken, but Munich is that further. He just letting us roaming. I mean, my brother had that wound. They took him to the hospital and they never saw something like that. Even they are warning, how can you walk with the open thing which one you can see your heart and ribs? And one of the Third Army, I remember one of the company, was a lieutenant and have to operate on him. And they said probably have to lose a few ribs and think. And I remember was a assessment, a young 20-year-old assessment doctor, 20-year-old, and he was a prisoner. And he showed it to him. He says, you think, you look what you look at that. How can you let walk somebody like that? Kill, but. And he said, we have to operate, and a few doctors been very scared to operate from the U.S. Army. Not scared, but he said, never had such a thing. You got full of pus, and you can see the heart, yeah? And he said, I do it. The assessment. The 20 or 21-year-old, his dad was doing it on a front all the time. And I remember that lieutenant took the gun out. He said, if he dies, you die. Yeah, and that was that. And he operated on him. And he was done such a good job. He cleaned his ribs. He didn't have to take out ribs. And after he put the tube in through here and made the thing on the bottom, that the pus going to run for a couple of weeks out from there. And he was in hospital 2-3 weeks. But in the meantime, I went free in Landsberg already, and that's when I just opened the door from the German house, and I see nobody in. Well, I just go in. I need a shower, I need something to eat. I wasn't hateful. I mean, I was hateful before, but when I was free, I lost my hatefulness. You know what I mean? I was personally not hateful. I couldn't do it. I couldn't hit him. I couldn't kill him. I couldn't, you know what I mean? And I remember we were roaming the street of Landsberg, and I had a friend, the Russian prisoners. He got drunk. 3 days later he died, after he was free, because he drank himself to death. He was poisoned but he wouldn't listen because they are all drunk. You know what I mean? The Russian. He wouldn't listen, and I went in that house, and I saw the Germans there in a cellar, and I said, don't worry about it. All I want is a hot bath. Go and cook something, and I don't kill anybody, and just don't worry about it, I said to them.